you have, how much VC funding have you raised to date?
So, I don't know if I can on air, fully disclose what we've raised.
Yeah.
And just because we haven't actually announced any of our fundraising for many reasons, partly because of number 4.
Okay. All right.
And so we like to stay under the radar, just until,
But how big are we talking about? Are we talking about a couple of 100,000? Are we talking the millions? Rough sense. Which?
No, so I think yes. It's we've raised today. It's in the 7 figures, right? I think that's
Okay.
We have, right. We started out just raising a very small round. I can actually mention that it was like 100K, which is like complete just family and friends. Round, and we started this in October, right? Like I said, we didn't want to raise until we had enough conviction, right? That we had a product that could actually scale in the market, right? And didn't want to take people's money. But immediately we kind of launched in October, and we're like, okay, now finally this is something that can take off. Then we decided to raise a very small round then, we've raised about 2 rounds after that. Again, I think that to this thing of funding, right, is also, I think when you also find the right product and the right market fit, then funding starts to become easier, right? So what happened, actually raising our first institutional round, we weren't actually raising money, right? It was literally just like a casual chat with someone that runs a local fund, and he heard about what we were doing, and it was like, shit, no, I need to
get in.
I need to invest. I need to get in, right? And we basically created the round for him, and they were the only investors in that round. And then from then on, it became a bit much easier to raise, right? Because it was then clear that there was a product that could really that was solving a real problem in the market.
I know you touched on this a bit earlier, right? But how did you guys survive? So you started 2020. I think your first raise was sometime of 2021, right? How did you guys survive all the time? Was there a time when you felt like, you looked at your bank account, you're like, we're a couple of days away from going bankrupt, right? Did that ever happen to you? How did you manage? How did you feel? How did you manage that?
Yeah, so I remember we did have to, I think we took out a loan late 2020. From, well, 2 things actually. One is I basically withdrew out of my pension account.
Man, you went, this is you going all in. This is all in,
Yeah,
wow.
It was so this is late, then September or something. I basically took money out of my pension account, just to and my co-founder also had money that he had saved up, and we pretty much put all of the money into the business, and then we started to raise in October, and at that point we it was if we didn't raise, we were going to just shut down. We started raising, and then the way these things happen is that people make commitments, and then they tell you, I'm going to pay you. I'm committing, but the money can only come in 2 months, etc. And so there were some months where we actually paid salaries maybe a week late, and just at least for the more senior folks, and just explain to them, money's coming, and we're just literally waiting for one person to wire their check, so that we could meet payroll. So yeah, that happened. I think for there was basically a 3 to 4 month period where money was really money was really tight, you know, and we were just like, you know, seeking seeking validation and all. But I think, you know, I think there are folks that, you know, just to be also a bit honest, I think there are folks that probably had it worse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we were lucky that one, we got a few consulting gigs like in the middle of COVID that gave us enough money to run. But even there with like that flexibility to know that, hey, you've got some skills, you can use it, it can bring in money. Even though we're doing consulting, but we were not earning a dime from it. It was just going, it was all going to
Going back into the
pay
business, yeah.
salaries, right? But at least, you know, we had that source, and you know, I had a pension account that I could go to. Yeah, I mean, I think the air folks will obviously, like, you know, find it a bit tougher, right? You know, and you know, and have to, like, you know, resort to a bit more extreme measures, right? But I think we were a bit lucky, right? You know, to also, you know, when we started the family and friends round, to also have a couple of folks around us that we could very quickly, raise from, and you know, could really, like, you know, get us money out, very very quickly. Yeah.
So Maya, I guess for me, what I'm hearing from you is, you know, a couple of things that I think a lot of people who are sort of thinking about jumping on this sort of tech startup entrepreneurship journey may not necessarily be aware. I think one is just the importance of that support network around you, right? Family and friends, like you said. And then I think the second one
Yeah.
I'm picking up from you is it's actually tough, right? Like you have to really believe in the idea and believe that, hey, this thing is actually going to be successful. For you to get comfortable to get to the point where you're like drawing into your pension fund, you know, taking a loan. I mean, these are huge decisions, right? So unless you have deep conviction that, hey, this thing is going to work, and you have the data and the customer validation is there, it's very hard to achieve. And obviously the third one is there are some days where you're going to have to delay making certain payments and be very close to the end. Hey, you know, it's all worked out very nicely. What's next for Traction Apps as you think about the next sort of 3 to 5 years?
Just to end that thought, right, is that even though, yes, it's not easy and it's tough, right, but it does always, I think, once you have that conviction, right, and I think that conviction you get a lot really from your customers, right? You know, you can read all the market reports and all, right, but you know, your customers really tell you at the end of the day, right, like if you've got something, is, you know, if you're able to ride that wave, right, of the first few months, right, then things start to shape up, right? So just not to discourage people, is, really, yeah, it might be tough in the early days, but really, once you hit the jackpot, then it becomes much easier.